Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we're going to do a little character guide on Ceodore. So in this video, we're going to take a look at his best artifacts, his best spheres, and then we'll do a quick little showcase and kind of go through his kit and kind of explain how he works. So just in general, like Ceodore is basically a support character. He does Holy Enchant and Imperil. He does some healing and provides some decent little auras and buffs to the party. So that's kind of the type of character he is. He's not going to be like a massive damage dealer or anything like that, so you definitely want to think of him as more of a support type character. So for his artifacts, basically you want to go with 3 attack 108 and then Prince of Baron up 2-star, basically just maximizing on attack and max brave there. Your secondary one, you'd go with max brave 330 if you can't get all of those, right? And then for spheres, we'll hop into those. So for his A sphere, I would say for him, you want to prioritize brave damage. Attack is okay as well. But once again, for A-Sphere, since there's so many of them, I like to use them on characters that... Like, I like to use the ones that don't work on anybody and use them towards characters that apply to, like, their kits, right? So, like, Ceodore, he's always going to have basically holy weakness damage. So he's a weakness damage character. So to get the most out of my spheres, I'm going to use up some of these weakness spheres that other characters can't use. So I went ahead and put Zondes on him because it does increase brave damage. And then you also get max brave when you're hitting weakness damage. So I would say look at your A spheres. Anything that's weakness damage that is either increases brave damage or attack, those are probably the first ones I would use. Otherwise, you could do generic ones that increase attack or brave damage. For the C slot, his own is decent if you want to get a little bit more party healing. So he does do a, well, this is the refined one, but it does a 2% party heal once per turn when he attacks a character. So that's pretty good if you just want to get some extra healing on there. If you want to focus more on like damage and attack, then you could do something like Garnet, or you could do party stats with Maria or Lude. These are pretty common ones I've been recommending for the C spheres, right? And then on the D spheres, this is kind of, you know, the very similar strategy other characters use on their D spheres, but just picking something that is going to increase the party's attack or brave damage in some way. So Ash is one I've been using quite commonly, so whenever he grants a buff, raises the party attack by 2% for 6 turns. So any of these things that are going to kind of buff the party, I feel like are pretty good for the D spheres, okay? So that's what we're going to go with for spheres, so we'll hop into a quick little battle here. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at his kit. So my Ceodore does not have a BT, but I will talk about the BT in the video. But we're going to look at basically an LD only Ceodore here, right? Okay, so we're going to hop in, and basically, honestly, like the fight and the style of fight and like who your team is could kind of dictate like what order you're going to do things in, right? So Ceodore's LD, most of the time I would say start with the LD, but it depends. So the LD, it does a huge party debuff cleanse, and it does like a really big fat party heal, and it does like a battery, right? So the reason why you would want to use this early is it does put a very important buff on Ceodore, which, let me see if he starts with the buff. No, he does not start with it. So you might want to use it early to get that buff on right away. Because part of what the buff does, it is going to do some party, it's going to improve the party performance, give the party some stats and things like that, but it does put a holy enchant on the party, which for a lot of these Lufenia orbs that are like holy orbs, that's pretty much what they're gunning for you to do. So when you put the LD on, you're going to get that very important, it's bearing the next generation buff, and that's what is going to do that. And then he gets turns of his awaken buff, right? So just the general thing to know with Ceodore is you basically want to keep that awaken buff on at all times. He gets significantly weaker without it, and he loses like the plus versions on, like he gets a pretty good like HP and brave triple plus attack when he has that on, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to, let me just do a delay here, or a turn steal I should say, a turn wipe. Let's do that first. So let's go ahead and put the LD on. Now, Ceodore is interesting because he's a kind of a combination. So for those of you that don't know, Ceodore is the son of Paladin Cecil and Rosa. So Cecil and Rosa. So he's kind of like a combination where like he's got Rosa's healing and stuff, but then he kind of has like some of the self-harm and stuff that like Dark Knight Sessa would do, so like kind of taking from his dad a little bit. So here, let's go ahead and do the Divine Heal. So we're going to do this Divine Heal. So this would like cleanse any debuffs we had. It's going to do a pretty fat attack there. You can see 500k, and that definitely could be a lot higher because my Ceodore doesn't have a burst. I don't have blue armor, right? So if you really like Ceodore, like he can do decent damage with that LD, right? We'll let Garnet here go ahead and do some Garnet stuff. But now we should have that really good buff on. So now Garnet won't get it because she's an elemental character, but any non-elemental character now would be doing holy damage. And Ceodore is also putting holy resist down on the enemies through one of his attacks, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Let's go ahead and put that on. All right. So basically, Ceodore can put a holy resist down on the enemies, and he can do that either through the Saint's Blast, which is his 15, or he can do that through the EX. So you usually want to make sure that that's applied fairly early. Now you're going to see we have the Awaken versions of all of our attacks, right? So let's go ahead and do Saint's Blast Awaken. So Saint's Blast here is going to do like a little AoE attack. It gives him a Red Wings buff, which just kind of like makes him work a lot better. So you just want to upkeep. Basically with Ceodore, you're just basically managing buffs. Like you want to keep his buffs up. Mainly the LD one is super important, and Awaken. Those are the two big ones you want to be looking out for. And then you want to make sure you're keeping the enemies in peril of the holy. As long as you're doing that and kind of dancing between the skills, you're pretty much doing what you need to do with Ceodore. You can use his AA to get some on-the-spot healing if you need to. His EX, I believe, also does a decent chunk of healing as well, which we'll talk about. Once we get the EX up, we'll go ahead and use that, right? Or actually, his EX is more of a battery. It's the LD that does the fat heal. So the LD is what you're going to be using for the big fat heal, right? Okay, so let's go ahead. Garnet, we'll just Aquamarine here. Okay, so now we're going to look at these kind of plus skills he has. He has two kind of really decent plus skills, right? So he's got a Brave triple plus Awaken and an HP triple plus Awaken. So the Brave Awaken is really good if you want to like keep Brave to not be broken. It's got really good Brave refund. The HP triple plus is good if you want like a little bit of splash damage, right? So let's just do the Brave Awaken here. And you can see it still has an HP dump. Like we did 300k with it, right? And you see he's still like basically capped out on Brave. So it's really good if you don't want to get broken, but you still want to deal some damage, right? So that's the type of thing you can do with Ceodore there. So next maybe we'll do the HP triple plus on the next turn. Let's see, let's go ahead and do this. Sure, we'll just throw this down. Just to get through to the next turn. So being that he has very good Brave and HP attacks, like you can definitely save a lot of skill uses there if you're doing a fight that's a little bit more drawn out. Once again, it's just about upkeeping the buffs and everything that you've got going, right? Okay, so we'll let this go through. Alright, so let's take a look at the HP triple plus here. Alright, so let's do the HP triple plus. Okay, so yeah, 300k then with a nice 50%, splash dump. That's very, very good, right? Garnet, yeah, let's just dump off one of these. So yeah, his triple plus attacks are actually very good. And so they are buttons that you want to press. He actually does very, very good damage with those, right? So next, we'll go ahead and take a look at the EX next since we've got it up. Basically, it just does a decent amount of damage. It's got some party battery, and then it also applies the debuff that does the holy resist down. So if you're not using the 15 to reapply that, the EX is another great way to reapply that. So it's, once again, you're just managing the debuff, kind of keeping things going. So let's go ahead and do the EX. Now the EX does have a plus version, and the plus version basically just, as long as the party's HP is high enough, you'll get, I think it's about 50%. So keeping the party HP up is very good as well, which is why you might want to give him his own sphere to help with that if you're worried about taking too much. So let's go ahead and check out the EX here. With the C90, it definitely does a lot more damage than it used to do, which is very good. So you can see a lot of HP dumps there, right? So yeah, 500k AoE is not bad. And once again, my Ceodore is nowhere near like a maxed out Ceodore. So you can be pushing those numbers up. So he actually does do pretty decent damage while doing a lot of support. So Ceodore by no means is like a bad character. You probably hear people say like, yeah, he's very skippable, or like there's not a lot of hype around Ceodore. And it's not because he himself is bad. It's just because of the other characters around him, right? When you're talking about characters like Locke and Garnet who are kind of meta-defying, Layla even is like I've been super enjoying Layla. Like, she just breaks the game, basically. She's like a cheat code. She just makes the game easy to win. For those of you that are maybe Dokkan players, I kind of equate her to Tech Caulifla, because in Dokkan, Tech Caulifla can just 100% dodge, and it's kind of like cheating, and that's kind of what Layla feels like, because she is 100% dodge. She's actually more busted, though, because then she's pulling the party up to get more turns and stuff. Like, she's crazy. So yeah, it's just, when you're comparing to what's around Ceodore, he doesn't seem like as crazy, but he's not bad. We can take a look at Awaken, and once again, keeping our eyes on the buff. So you can see, bearing the next generation, it's a long buff. We still have 10 turns on it, right? But my Awaken right now is only on 1 turn. So we definitely don't want that to fall off. And it's the overhead buff, so it's really easy to see. So you can refresh that with the LD, or you can use the actual Awaken attack here. So if we do the actual Awaken attack, it is a free turn, so you can just pop that off for free and get it. Now, with this BT effect, which I should talk about, since I'm not using the BT in the video, the BT effect is going to be just kind of generic, like party auras, buffs, things like that. But then it basically makes it so his Awaken will never go away. His Awaken just won't count down. So if you just don't want to have to think about the Awaken, I mean, the BT effect is good. But the thing is, it's not hard to upkeep his stuff, right? So yeah, we've basically shown off everything. So let's just go ahead and just do a couple more turns here. There's the HP triple plus again. I didn't really talk about the AA, but the AA is just like a fat on-the-spot heal. And then just does good, like, party aura type things, like a lot of the AAs do in the C90s, right? Typically, like, when you're playing characters in the C90 era, just at some point, like maybe before a big burst phase or whenever you're doing a lot of damage, it's usually good to just put each AA on, just because all those auras and stuff will stack with each other and just help your party out, right? Now, Ceodore's, because it's tied to a heal, you might want to wait till you need a heal, but you wouldn't have to if you just want to get some of those auras and things with it, right? So other than that, I mean, I don't think there's really anything else to talk about with Ceodore, just because, once again, I could go over all the numbers and percentages and things like that, but the way I designed my guides, I just want to be just very simple explanations, right? So my hope is you just have a generic idea of, like, after watching this, like, okay, that's kind of how Ceodore works. I got a general idea of what the buttons do. That's really what I want you to come out of here, right? There's plenty of, like, super detailed guides and stuff you guys can look up online, but yeah, in general, like I said, the reason why you're bringing Ceodore mainly is because you want holy damage, you want the holy enchant, you want someone that can maybe do a little bit of healing, give some good support auras and things like that, right? So that's pretty much, like, the main time you're going to be bringing Ceodore, like I said, unless he's a favorite and you want to, like, main him and run him all the time, most people like myself are just going to run him for holy orbs. Or once again, if you just need that support. But like for me, my roster's so big, I've got so many other characters I'd rather run. Here, let's do the Brave attack again just so you can see that. So yeah, very, very clean attack. I mean, 300k isn't bad. Plus, he's, capping out afterwards on Brave, so like you don't have to worry about getting broken, right? So anyways, there you go, guys. There's my quick little guide on Ceodore. Let me know what you think of him. Let me know if you pulled him, if you like him or not. Let me know if you greened him. I'm curious how many people are greening Ceodore and how good he is when he's green. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one.